Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined today's webinar with SwiftKanban and from Lean Kanban Incorporated. The webinar is Enterprise Services Planning with Kanban, specifically talking about defining key performance indicators. I guess we are just starting on time. We have David joining us today from Dublin, so hopefully there are a few other people who are also joining in from Europe, so a very good day to all of you. Let me get started right away, and I'm going to just lay out the agenda and talk a little bit about some of the housekeeping stuff, and then an introduction to David for those of you who may not know him. And then I will go on to give you a quick overview of SwiftKanban from Digite, and then after that hand over the mic to David. David, good evening. If you're there, hopefully you can hear me and we can get started.
Hi, good evening, good morning, Mahesh. Thanks for having me again, and hello to everyone wherever you might be in the world, whatever time it is with you.
Awesome. So just the agenda, we will start, as I said, with introductions. This introduction to SwiftKanban. We'll then go on to the main presentation by David, and hopefully we will have a good Q&A session at the end of the talk by David. Just so you know, we will take the questions in the Q&A box that you should see on the right side of your screens, and if required, depending on the number of questions, we may try and group them by topic, but otherwise I'll take them as they come. And the webinar is being recorded, and the slides in the recording will be made available after the webinar is done. So, of course, again, I always feel a little odd introducing David, because I know that most of you should know him already. He's the CEO of DJ Anderson and Associates. My name is Mahesh Singh. I'm co-founder and Senior Vice President Product at Digite, which is the maker of SwiftKanban. David has been a pioneer and a thought leader in the field of Lean and Kanban for several years. He has over 25 years of experience in the software industry, starting with the computer games early in the 1980s. Has led many different kinds of software teams. He's written several books, and of course his book, Kanban, Successful Evolutionary Change for Your Technology Business, is regarded widely as the Bible of Kanban for knowledge teams. And of course, David is the chairman of Lean Kanban Inc., which licenses and trains, licenses trainers and provides training material and organizes events around the world to promote the Kanban method and enterprise services planning. And of course, we are very honored and proud to have David as an advisor to Digite, as he has been for the last several years, and has helped us, especially in the areas of Lean and Kanban, to drive our roadmap. So David, once again, a very warm welcome and thank you for joining here. I'm just going to go ahead and share a few quick slides on Digite. We've been around since 2002, so have been in the business for quite some time. We are a pioneer in web-based collaborative products and solutions, especially sort of focused on geographically distributed teams. We're headquartered in Cupertino, California, here in the Bay Area, and we have over 300,000 users around the world on our various products that cover Lean Kanban, Agile, ALM, project portfolio management, etc. And of course, SwiftKanban is our flagship Lean Kanban product. And so, just a quick sort of look at SwiftKanban and how it is getting used by a variety of our customers. So we definitely have the biggest set of customers using SwiftKanban for software development, for IT, DevOps, and sort of high-tech operations. But we also have a number of customers who use it for other business functions such as marketing or procurement or HR and things like that. And we have people who use it for personal Kanban, managing their own personal work, specific projects like planning a big party or managing the children's homework and things like that. So there are all kinds of interesting personal Kanban use cases that we see. And one of the things that we have done, especially in the last few months, probably over the last year and a half, is that we have really done some really interesting work in terms of Kanban analytics, and so we provide probably some of the most extensive analytics that you might see in different Kanban products. And of course, we have customers around the world, ranging from high-tech companies, government and defense, IT services and consulting companies, system integrators, and so on, as well as manufacturing, healthcare, insurance, and a variety of others. So really a very wide range of customers that have used our products, and hopefully have high regard for some of the capabilities that we provide. So that is just a quick introduction to Digitay and to SwiftKanban. If you would like to hear more about it, just reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to answer your questions. So with that, I'm going to hand over the screen and the mic to David. David, I'm going to make you presenter. Just give me a second.
Okay, so.
All right.
Oh, why did that happen? Let's try this again. Can you see that now, Mahesh?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good. Thank you. Thanks, Mahesh. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I tend to speak a little quietly when I don't have an audience in the room, but it looks like it's loud enough. Mahesh will let me know if it's not loud enough. Let me get rid of this.
No, you're perfect, David. Go ahead.
Okay, so you can see this enterprise services planning, defining key performance indicators. There might be one or two of you on today's webinar who saw me give the keynote speech at the Agile Business Conference in London in November, and some of today's content is reused from that speech.
David, can you hear me?
Yes.
No, so we are for some reason seeing a blank screen right now, just a black slide. Maybe you have to move transition one slide or something like that.
What can you see now?
No, yeah, there you go. So now you can see the enterprise services planning, defining key performance indicators slide.
Okay, good. I've no idea what fixed that there, but it's good you can see it.
Now we're good to go.
All right, so let's move on. KPIs should shape improvements to service delivery, and we need to learn to pay attention to what customers care about, and those pop-ups came in the wrong order. Surprising. Just a brief reminder for everyone on the webinar that we have the Lean Kanban North America conference coming up in June 8th to 10th in Miami, Florida. The theme this year is a combination of taking Kanban back to our roots and the conference back to its roots, because we did the first conference in Miami in 2009. So very much a focus on implementing Kanban. It's Kanban for practitioners by practitioners, but also we're very much looking to the future with enterprise services planning. We have a pavilion in our exhibit area with 4 vendors, including Digitay, exhibiting enterprise services planning, feature support, and probably telling you about their roadmap for future support for other ESP functions over the next couple of years. The conference itself is 2 days of regular conference sessions on various things on this list, and then the third day is half-day workshops in the morning and then the afternoon. These are additional. You can buy the 2-day conference or the 3 days. If you're buying the 3-day conference, do act quickly to sign up for these workshops. Some of them are selling quickly, and I believe the Don Reinertsen workshop may already be sold out. So there are 7 other ones to choose from. Please act quickly if you're planning on coming to Miami and you want to take advantage of the workshop day on Wednesday the 10th of June. This year we have a number of experience reports, including Bazaar Voice, who do the web recommendations, local software company Ultimate Software from Fort Lauderdale, Western Florida, and we have a manager from Xbox who's coming to tell us how they use Kanban for developing the at least some elements of the releases of Xbox One. Those of you who were on the last webinar will resilience or survivability, or maybe we should have Nassim Taleb's fancy word anti-fragile in there. Then much more familiar terms: strategy, demand management, risk management, planning, scheduling, and service delivery. And these things blow out into these subtopics. And today we're going to be focusing on the lighter blue box, the strategy box, and looking at fitness for purpose, defining fitness criteria metrics, and relating that to class of service definition. Mahesh, I'm hearing a little noise on my end. Can you hear that?
No, David, I can just hear you.
No, it seems fine with you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what's the meaning of fitness for purpose? That speeches I've been giving the last few months and in our training classes, there's a confusion about the difference between the purpose of a business and whether that business or the services it's offering are fit for purpose. So you might have a purpose. Your purpose might be to create valuable employment for people who live in your hometown. It might be to make profits. It might be to create really wonderful Kanban software and make it available to people around the world. But whether your business is fit for purpose is very much determined by the customers. They determine whether they like your product, whether they like the services you're offering. They understand what they value and whether you're delivering on those things that they value. So fitness for purpose is in the eye of the customer, and it's a separate concept from whether you're defining the purpose of your business. So here I have two lead time distributions, two lead time histograms, and some of you will remember that these came from Raymond Keating of the CME group, and I first presented them publicly a couple of years ago. These show lead time for doing upgrades, change requests, software maintenance to two trading floor systems at the 9X exchange in New York. And if we were to ask the question, which of these two departments maintaining these two systems, which of them is fitter, then we look at these and we could say, well, System A, it takes an average of 17 days, 3 weeks and 2 days to deploy a change, and sometimes it takes them more than 10 weeks, actually longer than that because of a 5-day week, more than 70 days in some cases, where if we look at System B, they're obviously on average a week faster, and the tail on their distribution is a lot shorter, never more than 30 days. So these guys seem faster, more predictable, probably more reliable in terms of making promises, but does that make them more fit for purpose or not? And the real answer is we don't know. Because quite simply, while System B seems to perform better, we don't know what the customer expectations are. It could be that the customers for the changes on System A, the head of the trading floor for System A, he would be the main customer, he might be perfectly happy with the service that we get. So in order to know whether a system is fit for purpose, we need to know what the customer expects. We need to know some threshold level for delivery time that would be acceptable. And in many companies, this concept is captured as something called a service level agreement, that there's an expectation that changes are deployed within so many days of being accepted as valid requests. And we have that data for these two teams. The lower charts here show performance against the SLA. So a 0 here, 0 on the x-axis, represents an item which was delivered on time against the service level agreement expectation. And then the vertical shows how many items were delivered in that time. So anything from 0 to the left was on time or early, essentially within expectation, and anything to the right of the 0 is late. And from this, we can determine that the department doing the upgrades to System B, they are much more predictable, and they're delivering most of the work on time. A few items are early, and they have a few which are late. But if we look at the delivery for System A, quite a large quantity of the items are late, and roughly we have 5 out of 7 within expectations for System B and only 3 out of 7 for System A. So relatively speaking, we can say System B is more fit for purpose than System A. The department doing the upgrades for System B, they are much better, and we might expect the customers to be happier than they are for System A. 5 out of 7 is not perfect, it's not stellar, but it's a lot better than the performance of the department servicing System A. What makes a pizza delivery service fit for purpose, just to use more of a common world example? Well, if we order pizza for delivery, we might care about the delivery time, we might care about the quality of the pizza on delivery, whether it's still hot and tasty, whether it still looks good inside the box, and we probably care about whether the order was fulfilled accurately. If we ordered ham and pineapple, we don't want a pepperoni. So order accuracy, and then essentially non-functional requirements like hot, tasty, still looks good, didn't get too messed up while it was traveling. These things we care about. We care about the predictability of the delivery time. If they made us a promise over the phone, then we expect them to keep that promise. And we probably care about the restaurant conforming to health and safety standards. We might not worry too much about whether the delivery boy broke any traffic laws on his way, but we would expect that he manages to deliver within our expectations. So this lady is a project manager, and in this scenario she's working late with her team again because they have a deadline. They're trying to deploy some software on the weekend and the project's a little behind schedule, so they're all working late on a Thursday night. Excuse me just a second. Oh. Sorry, I'm sitting in my hotel room in Dublin and a member of the staff just came to the door and interrupted me. All right, back to the normal broadcast. So Neeta in this photograph needs to feed her team, and she's going to order pizza for them. What might they care about in terms of delivery? Well, delivery time, perhaps an hour is enough. They're too busy coding to really notice time going by. What about non-functional quality? Well, they like their pizza tasty and hot. If it's cold, if it's messed up on delivery, they're not going to like that. Functional quality, the order accuracy, well, maybe she's ordering 10 pizzas for the whole department. That we're willing to tolerate some small mistakes because the geeks on the team will largely eat any flavor of pizza, But if the restaurant messed up and didn't deliver any vegetarian pizzas, that might be unacceptable for some people on the team with special dietary requirements. Predictability, well, actually approximately an hour really is approximate because they're all busy working and they could wait a little longer. They probably have a break room in the office. They have some snacks that they can eat if necessary. They're fairly tolerant of mistakes being made. And safety-wise, we want health and safety in the restaurant, and as long as the food preparation is safe, we're probably quite fine. In fact, we probably don't even stop to think about it. What about the following evening? Things are going better on the project. Neeta had to work a little late, but she's confident that the deployment will go well on Saturday, so she heads home and she relieves her babysitter who's looking after her 4 children, 4, 6, 9 and 11 years old. The children have had snacks, but they haven't been fed and they're pretty hungry. Meanwhile, Neeta's been working a lot this week. She hasn't really had time to go grocery shopping, and she's quite exhausted at the end of the week after all the extra hours working. So she decides that cooking is out and it would be easier just to order in food. And while she probably shouldn't, she will order pizza for the children. Well, these children, what's their tolerance level for the pizza delivery? What about delivery time? Well, maybe 20 minutes. They're pretty hungry, and they're impatient, and now they're excited because it's pizza that's coming. Non-functional quality, what do they care about non-functional quality here? Well, it doesn't matter too much because it's pizza. They're children, it's pizza. It could be cold. It's still pizza. They love it. Functional quality, order accuracy. Well, what kind of pizza have these children ordered? Well, my guess is they want cheese pizza with tomato sauce. It's just basic margarita pizza, and no other flavors acceptable. If it's a pepperoni, even if you take those slices of sausage off, we still know they were there, and we're unhappy about it. So it has to be cheese pizza. We're not tolerant of any mistakes in the order. Predictability. Well, my guess is that the 6-year-old has an iPad and started the timer after saying, "Mommy, when will the pizza be here?" And she said, "Well, they told me 20 minutes. So there isn't a lot of tolerance for the 20 minutes changing. And from a safety perspective, we kids don't care. Mommy worries about that stuff. So the lesson from all of this is that although Neeta's the same customer, perhaps for the same pizza delivery service, on 2 different nights she has different requirements, that the concept of fit for purpose is different. Right? To be fit for purpose, there is both a product component and a service delivery component. There needs to be the right flavors of pizza, the right menu, and we also care about how fast they deliver, how predictable they are, the condition of the pizza on delivery. So there's a need for a restaurant to offer a selection of different recipes. They have to be tasty recipes and they have to be popular, but they also must deliver with speed and predictability. Just having a good menu isn't enough for a pizza delivery service. Modern creative work, knowledge work, professional services businesses, well, particularly product development companies, they obsess with product definition and strategy, and they often forget about operational excellence and service delivery. These are often overlooked or they're thought of as inferior management skills. As a result, they're often not dealt with as well as they should be, and there could be customer dissatisfaction, not because of the features in the product, but in terms of how it's delivered. Meanwhile, Neeta has 2 identities. She's a mother and a project manager, and for each of these identities, she really represents a different market segment that she has different demands of the pizza delivery service depending on which one of the identities she's currently working in. And this is a little different from traditional demographic or income group segmentation. It's something that most companies are not currently capturing, that it's the same credit card perhaps she's using. Well, maybe not, but it's certainly the same name, the same phone number. But her fitness for purpose criteria change depending on the circumstance. And perhaps a more modern idea of using personas to define customer segments. In some cases they will still miss this, that really Neeta's two personas rather than one. And that slide shouldn't be there, so we'll skip past it. That's just going back there, that's one of the exercises from our training class. I'm not quite sure how that got in there. Fitness criteria drive evolutionary change. So just a reminder here that the fitness criteria for service delivery like pizza is delivery time, quality, predictability, safety. We might also add the price in there. And if we can understand the service well enough and what the customer cares about, we can define these kind of fitness criteria metrics. Otherwise, we have to rely on things like customer satisfaction surveys and just simply asking them, do you like our pizza delivery service? Would you recommend it to someone? It's better to actually understand what the customer cares about, because the metric is more actionable. Delivery time is an actionable metric. Would you recommend our pizza delivery to someone else, yes or no, or a score 1 to 10? That's really not an actionable metric. It just tells us whether we're winning or losing. It doesn't tell us what to do. Evolutionary change has no endpoint. If this purple dot here represents our current process for delivering something, we can evaluate it with the fitness criteria that our customers care about. And if it's not good enough, we can make a change to the process. It can evolve over time. And we can keep using our fitness criteria to determine, are we better than we were before? Are we good enough yet? And if not, we can keep going. We can keep making alterations and changes to the way that we do the service delivery. And from time to time, we might discover that a change we've made isn't good, so we have to roll it back. Not every change that you make can be rolled back. So there are some situations where there's no choice but to roll forward. And all the time, we just keep evaluating what we're doing against the customer's fitness criteria. And we keep making changes, and we go on forevermore. The future process is emergent. There's really no end point in this kind of change. It's just continual evolution. Business risks, fitness criteria, and classes of service should align. So I assume on a webinar like this that we have an audience that's familiar with Kanban, and you're familiar with the concept of a class of service in a Kanban board. Well, classes of service are modeled around business risks. So for example, if we have an opportunity cost of delay, that if what we're asking for, if it's delayed, we will lose an opportunity to make some money or to gain some other advantage, market share perhaps. Well, the delay has an opportunity cost with it. So if we care about that, if we care about how long does it take for delivery, then the metric we need is lead time. From the point of commitment, how long will it take until we've received delivery of our request and we can start getting a benefit from it. So opportunity cost of delay is a business risk, and on the delivery side there's the schedule risk of how long will it take to deliver. Therefore the metric we care about is lead time, and if we're managing the risk and opportunity cost of delay, we will have some expectation for what's an acceptable waiting time to take delivery. How much of the opportunity are we willing to lose before we have to move on and do something else? So we have to select our key performance indicators carefully. KPIs, to use this old-fashioned language, it's very popular, key performance indicator. They should be fitness criteria metrics. They should be metrics that our customers care about. And lead time is the right metric, but what's the threshold value? What represents good enough? That if we can understand that, then we know at what level of performance our customers will be happy with what we're doing. And if that's true, then we're fit for purpose. So KPIs should assess service delivery capability and indicate fitness for purpose. And in doing so, they indicate the likelihood of us being successful in our business and thriving and surviving and thriving and adequately satisfying our customers. Your KPIs should be recognizable by your customers as something meaningful. If it doesn't mean anything to your customer, it's not a key performance indicator. It's some other kind of metric. Perhaps it is a metric that you might care about in some way, but it's not a key performance indicator. If your customer doesn't understand it, it doesn't mean anything to them, they don't really care about it, it won't affect whether they're happy or unhappy with your service delivery. It won't affect whether they choose to use your service again in the future or not. If it's none of those things, it's not a key performance indicator. It's not something that's going to drive the correct type of evolutionary change in your organization. There are other useful metrics. Key performance indicators are clearly very important and they would drive evolution in the correct direction. But there are other things we care about, and they fall into two categories: metrics which guide improvements and general health indicators. And we'll be looking at some of these later in the talk. That a metric that guides an improvement, perhaps you've decided you're not fast enough, your lead time's not good enough, and that's a key performance indicator. It's a fitness criteria metric. Your customer cares about it. So you'd like to go faster, and you believe that testing is taking too long, so you'd like to automate as much testing as possible so that it goes faster. Well, you might use a metric such as automated code coverage, automated test code coverage. And you'll report that metric and you expect to drive it up. And as you drive that metric up, you expect lead time to fall. So the metric guiding the improvement should be a leading indicator of whether you're improving on your key performance indicator, on your fitness criteria metric of lead time. General health indicators might be things like liquidity. In a more general business sense, it could be something like working capital. And for individuals, a general health indicator for us might be our heart rate, our blood pressure, our weight, the sort of things that your doctor measures routinely when you go for an office visit with the doctor. They just simply keep a note of these things because a dramatic change in your weight or your blood pressure may be an indicator that there's some other thing wrong that needs investigating. So general health indicators are very important. They're not particularly actionable in themselves. They just tend to point to whether things are going well or whether they're not going so well. That if your working capital is down, that tells you you've got less money to play around with. If the liquidity in your system is down, it tells you you have less options to play around with. If your blood pressure is up, it tells you that you're not in such good health, but it doesn't tell you why. and it's not particularly actionable. So 3 types of metrics: fitness criteria metrics, which should be your KPIs, metrics that guide improvement, and metrics which indicate general health. So how do we go about defining fitness criteria? If we were simply to ask our customers, would you like our IT services to be faster, they'd answer yes. And if you asked how fast, they'd say, well, instantly would be good. But actually there is a performance level that they're willing to accept, that they'd be happy with, and we need to discover that. Well, first of all, let's understand that the metrics might change as the market conditions change, and this example is using the technology adoption life cycle. That on the x-axis we've got time going by and the type of customers who are buying our product, and on the y-axis we've got the amount that we are selling, the number of items or the revenue we're making, the market adoption. And as we move through this time and we see different people buying our product, what they care about actually changes. The enthusiast market wants our product to be hip and cool. They don't mind whether it's got a few bugs in it, and they'd really love it if we had a community website where they could post comments and ideas and perhaps even bug fixes. They'd love it if we listened to them and they got to contribute to the product development. Where early adopters, they're looking for an advantage over the majority buyers who will come later. And they're looking for good functional quality and adequate non-functional quality. They really don't want it to be too buggy, at least within a specific niche. The functionality they need for that niche has to work properly. And they're less enthusiastic about community development. They might get involved, but not in the same way. And the product doesn't need to be so hip and cool. It needs to be something that gives them an advantage. Where early majority buyers, they need a permission-giving early adopter. If there isn't someone just like them who's already using it, they're probably not going to want to start using it yet. And they need exceptional functional and non-functional quality. Later on, the late majority buyers, they want it to be cost effective. They want the price to be low. They want you to have driven down the costs, perhaps already amortized your product development costs, and they still need exceptional functional and non-functional quality. Well, the laggards at the end, they're essentially people who are being forced to adopt the product, and they view it as a taxation. A laggard is, for example, someone who didn't buy a flat-screen digital TV. They own a set-top box that converts digital signals into analog, and they still have their own television, their old television. So for laggards, it might even be a different product that you need to sell them. It's not just that you have a very low-cost flat-screen digital television. They simply don't want to replace their old analog TV. So changes over time, the fitness criteria change over time. Well, how do we find out fitness criteria? Well, first of all, we need to understand who the customers are. We need to do some storytelling, listen for patterns. And this picture is actually from some of our own strategic planning, where we developed clusters for different people who buy training classes from Lean Kanban Incorporated. And we developed nicknames for those clusters, people such as all-ins, that's people who offer Kanban training or consulting and they don't do anything other than Kanban. Aspirationals, bet hedgers, Boy Scouts, there were a number of different names for these groups. Well, once you've got your segments and you understand them, you've been able to cluster the customers. And you could imagine our pizza boy here telling stories about the pizzas he's delivering and describing the mom with the 4 kids and they were all starving because she'd been working a little late. And then he might describe visiting offices and delivering 10 pizzas. The people were all working late on a project. And gradually you get to understand the different market segments. So if we were to ask Neeta, how fast would you like your pizza? She's probably going to say, well, it's, as fast as possible, but she is actually willing to wait a while. Right? So the customer will tend to tell you they need better service and more features than they really need, that because it buys them options, but they're actually willing to accept a lower level of service. Of course, you can ask them questions like, would you pay more for the things you need and want? If Neeta wanted faster pizza delivery for her kids, would she pay $5, $10 extra for the order to guarantee delivery in 20 minutes? And if we ask her that question, she might say yes. But if we start offering that product, that additional service, essentially an additional class of service, will she buy it or not? She said she would, but will she really buy it? Will she pay extra money for that service? So we can't tend to believe what people say. We have to watch what they do. So believe what customers actually do, not what they believe they'll do when you ask them the question. Actual behavior will vary from declared intent, and people will tend to over-ask. They'll ask for things that they don't need. So who knows the customers? Well, it's the frontline staff. Well, in a business like mine, the frontline staff are trainers like Alexei Zegloff and marketing people like Janice Linden-Reed. And these are all highly educated professional people who are delivering our service. But in many other businesses like pizza here, the frontline staff are often the lowest paid staff in the business. And in many situations, they have the highest staff turnover, the shortest tenured positions. Retail staff, for example, if you go in a store to buy a new mobile phone, they have a very high staff turnover in the retail stores for mobile phone companies. So it's quite likely that if you go back 6 months later, the same person doesn't work in the store anymore. So the business intelligence of who's buying our service and what are they using it for and what do they care about, that business intelligence is constantly leaving. And while it is there, it's in the lowest paid staff who are not particularly incentivized to share it with the big bosses. Yet it's vital information for the survival of the business. Pizza Boy here, he knows Neeta's story, right? He's one of the staff who meets the customers. And if we're going to learn how to create the right fitness criteria metrics, the right KPIs, we actually need to know the information that our frontline staff have, in this case our Pizza Boy. We need to know the stories he's captured. We need to understand our customers based on our segments, our segmentation of the customer base. This picture here is a little disguised assembly line for sports cars, grand touring cars. And this is the story of a European grand touring car manufacturer who discovered that their service delivery on new vehicles was no longer fit for purpose. That from this discovery, they learned that the correct metric should be 21 months from the point where the customer placed an accepted order to taking delivery of the vehicle. They discovered this information because in 2009 their production was such that customers were having to wait 27 months to take delivery, and the number of cancellations of orders reached an unacceptably high level. For the first time in the company's history, people were cancelling the orders for cars and buying inferior alternative products instead. And this caused a board-level meeting to happen in that company, and a dispute amongst many of the senior directors of the business. The resulting decision was that they should speed up production, and as they gradually increased the production rate, the delivery time fell. When it reached 21 months, the level of cancellations fell to a negligible level, and occasionally people would die while they were waiting to take delivery of their vehicle. That's obviously a very acceptable cancellation. You can't legislate for the fact that perhaps an old man decided to order a sports car in his retirement and then he didn't live long enough to enjoy it. So there are still some cancellations, but at an acceptable level. So they had determined what made them fit for purpose was a 21-month lead time. But this is an interesting way to determine a threshold level. It's not particularly safe to fail. In this case, they allowed service delivery to reach an unacceptable level and customers to be cancelling and buying an alternative product in order to discover the right level. So this particular company has a very strong brand, and they have very unique history and a very high quality product. So they survived this particular situation through 2009, 2010. Other businesses might not. So it's very difficult to suggest, well, let service delivery decline until the point where the complaints are so bad, then gradually ratchet it back up again. Also, that takes a considerable capability to be able to manage it down and manage it back up. So as a piece of guidance, it's not safe, it's not a safe to fail approach, and it's not fit for purpose as management guidance. And I think I just talked through this slide. Retarding customer service until customers complain vehemently or would take their business elsewhere could be damaging, undermining your brand, your reputation, loss of market share, loss of revenue. Probing for threshold values by reducing service quality isn't a safe to fail approach. So we need some general guidance that we'd consider to be safe to fail, a way of probing for fitness criteria and the correct KPIs in a way that doesn't damage our reputation. If we can't ask and we can't allow service to decline until complaints make the threshold evident, what can we do? So probing for threshold levels. We can probe with a class of service. Look for clusters or patterns of demand or patterns of similar expectations from customers or new sources of demand that might represent an emerging segment. And, whoops, I'm sorry about this one, it's something wrong with the animation. What that says is create a class of service which I am going to try and fix this right now. I'm really sorry about this. Create a class of service that responds to the believed new segment. Set the service levels at or close to the anticipated threshold level. So then we need to observe the take-up of our class of service. For example, we might note that certain amount of our demand is tied to major contractual obligations that we have with either vendors or customers. And there are certain fixed dates, perhaps with penalty clauses in that contract. And that might have caused us to introduce a fixed delivery date class of service. Well, is it overused? Is it abused? Are people asking for the fixed delivery date class of service when they don't actually have an item that's related to a major contractual obligation? Or is the class of service we're offering, is it underused? If it's underused, we should consider removing it. Or perhaps we've offered a class of service and people are using it. In fact, there's a lot of demand. And as a consequence, we're not able to deliver against that expectation regularly. Perhaps only 50% of the time we can deliver against a particular SLA. Well, the question then should be, do people complain? If they're complaining, hey, you promised us 20 days and you didn't deliver it, then that's a good indicator that they probably needed the 20-day SLA. If on the other hand they're not complaining, you made a delivery, it was late against the SLA but there was no complaint, that's probably an indication that the 20-day SLA was over-promising, that you can change the class of service and you can turn it down. So a fixed delivery date class of service emerged this way. There are many others. So back in 2007 we noticed a cluster, actually 3 clusters, major contractual obligations, regulatory requirements, and things that were very seasonal in nature. And we introduced the fixed delivery date class of service to respond to that. It was overused initially by the marketing department. They started abusing it, asking for everything to be fixed delivery date. But by tightening up the eligibility criteria, we were able to regulate the volume of demand for the fixed delivery date class of service. Once we have fixed delivery date, that enables us to defer commitment, to defer pulling something onto the Kanban board until just the right point where if we start it, we have a high chance of finishing it just when it's needed, achieving just-in-time delivery. Here's a telecom equipment example. I met a team that did platform maintenance for this telephone equipment manufacturer. They're basically working on a middle layer in the telephone stack. And from time to time, customers would request changes to their telephone systems. Perhaps the government in their region, their country, would change the regulations, and this would cause them to make requests of the equipment manufacturer to make changes. And these changes would ripple through various systems, subsystems and components and find their way down to this particular development team working on this middle layer in the telephone stack. But interestingly, the request would still be tagged with the name of the requesting telephone operator. And this is really quite useful information. If I look at my own experience from the telco sector in North America from over a decade ago, there were 6 main companies and 3 of them were Verizon, Sprint PCS and VoiceStream, or T-Mobile USA as it became. And they had different strategic plans, different strategic positions. Verizon valued quality more than anything because they had the best network, they had the best coverage, they had the lowest dropped calls. Sprint valued time to market because they were the innovator in the market. They brought the newest handsets with the newest features to market fastest. While VoiceStream, or T-Mobile, they valued low cost because they were the cost leader in the market. They offered the lowest priced plans. Well, if we knew this information and we were at the telephone equipment manufacturer, randomly pick one like Nortel, which was a supplier to Sprint. Imagine we're supplying these 3 companies and we have requests coming from all 3, and we know that they value different things, that the fitness criteria are different for this set of clients. Well, we can design classes of service around this. That high quality for Verizon will mean a tight definition of done, very tight criteria, policies for pullable to the next step on the board. Where Sprint value lead time, so we want a class of service that allows us to pull things with priority and perhaps a looser definition of done to make it easier to move things through. So they get slightly lower quality than Verizon perhaps, but things move faster. Meanwhile, Low cost for our T-Mobile customer might mean that we assign junior members of staff to their work. It takes lowest priority compared to others, so it can move more slowly, but we offer them a lower price. And that might manifest itself on our Kanban board, where we literally put lanes on the board for the different customers, and the tickets in each lane receive a different class of service. So we've directly tied the strategic position of our customers, we've clustered our market segment, we've understood what the customers care about, we've defined fitness criteria metrics, we've made those our KPIs, and we've changed our Kanban board design and allocated capacity and defined classes of service for how tickets are pulled through the Kanban board to align with customer expectations. So each lane representing a different source of demand with different fitness criteria and different threshold values. Different classes of service for each lane, and these have been specifically tuned to the customer. So the lesson here is that to have confidence, we're offering a service, that we've got a business that's fit for purpose. We must be offering multiple classes of service, different classes of service. If we're not, the implication is that our market's entirely homogeneous. We're only serving one segment, and that's very unusual in the modern world. To serve more than one market segment adequately, you must offer a selection of classes of service. If you don't have classes of service on your Kanban board right now, you're either serving just one customer, or you're probably underserving the customers that you currently have. Classes of service should align to market segments and fitness criteria or stakeholder needs. Your KPIs cannot be general, they need to be tied to customer expectations. Different segments have different expectations, hence different threshold levels for your KPI. In other words, if you serve more than one customer, you should have different KPIs for each customer, not just one KPI for your whole department, your whole Kanban system. So rounding this out, let's classify some metrics here, typical metrics you'll have heard about and seen implemented in Kanban tools like SwiftKanban. So the lead time distribution, or the lead time histogram metric, it's a KPI, it's a fitness criteria. It's very, very common that your customers care about delivery time. So lead time is a fitness criteria metric. It should be a KPI. What about blocker clustering? In this photograph, Klaus Leopold has coached one of his clients to harvest the blocker tickets from their Kanban board over a period of a month, and then to cluster them, and they've separated them into external sources of delay and internal sources of delay, and then the external ones are customer and supplier, and the internal ones, there's 5 different groupings there. Well, these harvested blocker tickets, we can record how many days blocked, and from the cluster we can determine the likelihood of a blocker happening to any ticket over the next month. That's the percentage of tickets that blocked. We can look at the total impact. If you look carefully at this one, the customer cluster marked there as Kunde, the total number of days blocked is 130. And from that, we can also calculate an average number of days blocked. And blocker clustering like this is a feature already implemented in the SwiftKanban software, so you can get this metric already. Well, this type of metric is one that guides an improvement, because the blocker clustering information tells us the likelihood and the impact of a particular type of delay, and that will help guide project management, risk reduction and mitigation actions. In other words, specific improvement initiative designed to reduce the chance that an item is blocked, and therefore reduce the likelihood of a long tail on our lead time distribution. So it's guiding an improvement that will directly affect one of our KPIs. So blocker clustering information guides an improvement. What about our old friend, the cumulative flow diagram, something that I've been talking about since 2002 when I was writing my Agile Management book? Well, cumulative flow diagrams are general health indicators. They show us the width, they show us our average lead time, they show us our delivery rate, and if our cumulative flow diagram is nice and smooth, that's an indicator that our Kanban system is flowing smoothly and that people are adhering to WIP limits. If the cumulative flow diagram is ragged looking, then it's an indicator that things are not flowing so smoothly, perhaps we're not adhering to policies. It's a general health indicator, a bit like blood pressure. Flow efficiency, that's another general health indicator, and flow efficiency is another metric which is reported as a standard feature in SwiftKanban. Again, a general health indicator, if our flow efficiency is low, it is an indication that there's a lot of room for improvement. It's also an indication that our predictions are not particularly susceptible to changes in the size of items, the complexity of items, the assignment of particular workers to an item, because the working time is such a low percentage of the total that lead time will not be terribly affected by size, complexity, or specific work assignment of individuals. If our flow efficiency is high, on the other hand, then we know that we are affected by changing out people, by the size of the item, by its complexity. So it does help us understand how our system might behave. But flow efficiency in itself is not particularly actionable. If I was to tell you your flow efficiency last month was 11% and I want a target of 15%, it wouldn't tell you how to close that gap. It will just tell you that there's an opportunity for improvement. In order to close the gap, you'd need to figure out where the sources of delay are. You'd need a metric that actually guides improvement. Liquidity is also a general health indicator. This is data from CME Group. What it shows is the volume of pool transactions inside their Kanban system on a daily basis over a 2-month period. And this is for System A and System B that we saw earlier at the front end of the presentation. And if we take the derivative of this data, we now call that volatility. The derivative of the liquidity metric is the system volatility. And volatility is also a general health indicator. And if you look at the run charts here for System A and System B, you'll see that the signature on System B is a lot smoother looking than System A. So we might take a look at this volatility picture and we'll say, well, clearly System B is much less volatile than System A. It's probably healthier. But this again is not a particularly actionable metric. It's just something we'd want to study. If the System B signature suddenly changed into a more volatile picture like System A, it would indicate that there's been some dramatic change in the operation of our Kanban system, and that other things that we're expecting, particular lead times, predictions we've made about project delivery or expectations for delivery rate, those predictions are maybe not valid anymore. So just to wrap up, everything I've shown you has come from our ESP training. Most of the material on fitness for purpose is from Module 1, our portfolio management module, which is a 2-day training class. And some of the metrics I showed you towards the end, the lead time, the blocker clustering, the flow efficiency, the liquidity, and the volatility, those come from modules 2 and 3. The enterprise services module has things like lead time, flow efficiency, blocker clustering. The project and demand management has the liquidity materials. So our enterprise services training, it's 5 days of training. It's broken into 4 modules. We currently deliver ESP training on premises with clients around the world. And if you are interested in following up on taking one of these training classes or having it delivered at your company, whether it's all 5 days or just some modules, please contact Wes Harris. He's our commercial director, Wes at djaa.com. And with that, that's the end of the presentation, and we can move on to the questions.
Great. Thank you, David. That was a great presentation and a great sort of summary of defining key performance indicators. So I'd like to open the session to people who may have any questions. The Q&A box is on the right side of your screens. Please do let us know if you have questions that you have. David, I just want to start off with something, just sort of key takeaways that I thought I got from your session today. Is that first of all, as you said, that the defining of key performance indicators, it requires understanding of customer expectations. You can't really define these KPIs without really knowing what the customer expects. That's certainly critical for any kind of service business. But the second thing that you mentioned made even more sense, especially because we have a lot of clients who are service integrators, system integrators, or IT service providers, is that both operational excellence and service delivery excellence, these are equally important for just as important as product innovation and quality, and these are often ignored when companies are trying to come out with a great product. So that's certainly something that's really very critical for companies to know, that how they deliver their product to the customers is equally important, if not more sometimes. Things like business risk, fitness criteria, and class of service should all be aligned. These are all the things that help companies define their metrics, the key performance indicators, much better. Something else that you mentioned, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially for a product company like Digitay, is that the KPIs will vary based on the market adoption life cycle. So what starts off as a key performance indicator at the start of a launch of a product may not remain the same as the market matures and as the customers who are looking at the product, they mature. So that's again something I thought was very, very useful for product development businesses to remember. And all of this, of course, means that we should definitely be offering different classes of services for different situations, different customers, different market segments. I think very, very critical lessons for both product businesses as well as services. So awesome. I have one comment so far by Rosemary Hosenlop, and she says, no, not a question, but praise. Great info, insights about definitions and practical implementations for different classes of service.
All right, that's great, and it's nice to see that the presentation is meaningful for Digitay directly. That's encouraging.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think especially because of the fact that we provide our products both in the software as a service model as well as on-premise models, we have to be mindful not just of the product features and the innovation that we bring there, but also in the way that we deliver the product to our customers, not only as this software service, but even in terms of how we support their on-premise installations and how our support and services and our infrastructure teams are able to work seamlessly with our dev teams. In fact, I was discussing this with my CTO, Ramesh, the other day, and we are, in many ways, we are our own DevOps, function, and we have to have sort of the complete flow of features right off our development board onto our deployment and availability to the customers in a very, very seamless manner, so that customers don't see any sort of break there. So absolutely very, very relevant for us.
So this was the first of our more detailed looks at the enterprise services planning materials. And today I really wanted to underscore that enterprise services planning is a management approach for running a professional services business, a creative knowledge worker business. And it's not just about IT work, it's not just about service delivery, although that's an important piece of it, and clearly using Kanban to improve service delivery is core to enterprise services planning. But there's a lot of material in there that's about strategy, about understanding your markets, creating the right metrics, driving the right behavior within the business. And it's for that reason that for the time being we're delivering the classes on premises with customers directly, because it works best when everyone is working at the same company, and usually the attendees are from many different functions, from product strategy, product marketing, perhaps sales, although I haven't seen too many salespeople in our training classes. But they're not just from the service delivery side, they're also from the customer side, and they're learning how to change their approach to running their business. They're learning to think differently about defining customer segments and understanding business risks. And perhaps in the next webinar we'll take a look at some of our risk assessment framework material.
Okay, great. So I guess we are already at least, I think it's 10 minutes over our time. So since there are no more questions today, let's wrap up. And if the audience has any questions, please send them to us either at. Let me, in fact, go ahead and share our contact information. Just give me a second. All right, so you have all the emails available here. You can obviously send questions to David and team, or if you have questions about SwiftKanban or any other related questions, you can send those questions to us as well. David, would like to thank you for a really great presentation today, and as you said, sort of the first sort of detailed look at some of the components of ESP, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you for the opportunity again, Mahesh, and yeah, the next one perhaps sometime in June.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending the webinar today, and hope that we see you on the next one sometime real soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.